Welcome to Empowering the Next Generation podcast. I am Helen Verroux. This podcast is dedicated to help anyone connected to preteens and teens to give them tools, empower and inspire teachers, high school senior leaders, and parents to build the future leaders of tomorrow. We discuss about controversial and relevant topics related to the world of education, the main problems you are facing, and solutions to help you navigate your journey. We want to make a positive change in education by bringing on experts that will give you a different perspective on how you can solve the hardship you are facing today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Empowering the Next Generation podcast with me, Coach Helen. I am so grateful that you're again listening to us for an amazing podcast. We have with us Sandra Balogun. She is a certified leadership coach. She's a trainer, the founder of Beyond Numbers LLC. She's recognized as a woman to watch by the Massachusetts Society of CPAs. She empowers professionals and the next generation through leadership, accounting transformation, and financial literacy. She's also the author of Where Did the Money Go? A financial literacy book for children. I am so excited that she's with us today because you all know, guys, that I want to empower you to ignite 360 high school communities and also to learn how to develop leaders and eventually create meaningful connections. So welcome, Sandra on board. Thank you for coming to the podcast.
Hi, Ellen. Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you everyone who is listening live and probably watching at whenever you're listening or watching. It's nice to be here and have this conversation with you. Thank you so much, Coach Ellen, for the work that you do in education, in leadership. It's really amazing.
Yes, I love that you're actually with us today because you're a John Maxwell certified coach, just like I am. And I feel it's important to actually diversify who we are as a person because you're an accountant first. You had your degree in accounting. And now what led you to actually have the John Maxwell certification?
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Arlene. It's just because leadership is for everyone. Leadership is life. You need to be able to lead yourself so that you can now lead others as well, and also lead bigger visions, bigger dreams as well. So being an accountant is what I do as a trade, but leadership is, I call it the glue that holds everything together, because I really need to know how to lead myself. If I'm in the spaces of business, helping people with their work, they want to be comfortable that they're working with someone that can manage herself. So that helps me to be able to manage their own businesses, their own resources, and their team as well. So that's why I went to the Maxwell leadership course to get certified. I've always followed John Maxwell from a teenager. I've read his book, but I got to that time to say that, see, I don't want to be eating things piecemeal. I want to be trained. So that's really a big difference. Like when I work with people, I'm like, it's not just about you going to different channels to watch something or reading things randomly or learning randomly, but you go through a training process. You are in the educational space, and when you look at the educational space, there's something we call curriculum. There's a way you go from step one. Once you're done with step one, you move to step two, step three, and then you begin to build mastery. And that's really the difference about training. So training is, it's a tailored process. It's a process that we are really looking into and trying to say, how do you move from point A to point B? So I just didn't want to be random. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to someone who really knows how to do this, who has an experience in this, and I really want to understand it very well so that I can help myself and also help others. Because even in the accounting industry, we have people who feel, oh, that, oh no, this is so boring, this is so hard, I cannot do it. But one of the things I've realized is that leadership, that personal leadership part is missing, such that we cannot be able to, or people sometimes can struggle to manage themselves. Then how do you manage a very dynamic world like accounting, and every day you have deadlines and things? So that's the reason why.
Yeah, I love what you say because as well in education is kind of the same thing. I believe that people are in position like head teachers, senior leaders, even educators, they are being placed in the fields, but they are not being trained to be leaders. They don't understand that there is something that they have to develop in their life to grow into leadership. And seriously, John Maxwell has really helped me to understand the concept of leadership. I read the book of the 21 laws of irrefutable laws of John Maxwell, and it helped me to realize that you're not just a leader. You need to develop yourself as a leader. And people have that misconception about leadership just as being the title, but not really being that transformational leadership. So I am a transformational leadership coach. So it's not just about leadership, but it's about transformation. It's how we can actually bring change around us. And I feel that I did the John Maxwell certification like you because I wanted to make an impact in the field of education, the same way you're doing an impact in the field of accounting. And it's really commendable. So I encourage anyone that is listening to us that they need to grow into the concept of leadership. Just not, that's what I love with John Maxwell. It's not just a program. It's not just another program. It's really a transformational leadership program that really helps you to see you as a person. And it talks a lot about the concept of servant leadership, which is amazing. I believe that we are here to serve the people that we have been connected with. I believe that we need to see leadership not just as a way to lead people just for the sake of saying it, but as well of a way of influencing. And that's what you're going to talk about. You're going to talk about becoming an influential leader, a person of influence. So let's dive a bit deeper. How does influence and leadership relate together? How would you answer this question?
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the just the brief you've given us. So when we look at leadership and influence, I would say leadership is equal to influence. That's how I'm going to put it. So when you talk about influence, you're talking about leadership. When you're talking about leadership, you're talking about influence. You are not really separating both together. And because if you really look at just like what you were saying, is about making an impact, right? So, and that's what influence really is, how something affects another thing. That's what influence is. How does my action, how does my word, my body language, how does my introduction, my manner of conversation, how does it affect others? And that's really is what leadership is about. Because as a leader, one of the things you're doing is you're affecting others. And leadership is not only those in the boardroom. Leadership,
No.
even from how you work, you can be a leader. You can work in such a way that another person sees you and like, oh, I really like how she works, and I want to work like that. Look at today in the music industry. You see someone swings and sway and dance, and what do people want to do? They want to do the same thing. Somebody is leading, somebody is giving the rhythm, and that's what really leadership is about. What is the rhythm that you're playing that people want to follow? That exactly is leadership, and that is influence. How are you able to affect another? When you sit in a room, how do you affect other people? So that's why even when you look at board, because I do a lot of work with the corporate industry as well. So when you're looking at executive presence, exactly what we're talking about is your influence. When you come to that room, what influence do you bring in? How do you affect the room? Exactly, that's what leadership is about. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And in education, I believe that sometimes people are not aware of the fragrance that they carry as leaders. And they
Mhm.
have to really start thinking, who am I as a leader?
Exactly.
What am I actually portraying to my team? What is a vision that I want to actually give to my team? And there is so many things that when you talk about influence, it comes into place that people don't realize. You're not just being appointed as a leader with a title. It's more than that, as you were saying. It's influence, it's transformation, is how do you actually connect with your staff? How well do you know them so they can actually be in that place of transformation? Because when you're around people, people have had a lot of traumas in their life, and sometimes
Mm,
they don't respond to the same way that you respond to certain situation. And a
exactly.
leader needs to know the people around them, the team around them, the educators, their senior leaders, their anyone that is around their career, their job. They need to be sensitive to who they are, and then actually bring something different to the table. Because I feel like if we don't do that and we don't allow like people to be vulnerable in their journey of leadership, we will never have that transformational influence. I'm really into transformational. I will use that word for a lot because it's not just leadership. It's not just influence. It's transformational influence. We want to bring change and positive change around us. So I love how you actually shared the fact that it's connected. Both of them are connected. And
Exactly.
how does influence and leadership relate? Oh, sorry, I'll read that out. In this, what is understanding your leadership sphere of influence? What does it mean? Sorry.
Beautiful. So when we talk about understanding your leadership sphere of influence, we're saying be more aware. And
Mm,
now you have to start with the awareness of yourself. Now there is
mm,
this word, though it's used in the faith community, where they say, what would you gain if you win the whole world and you lose yourself?
mm,
Right? Because sometimes we want to do a lot of things and we're not even aware of the person who is trying to do that work. So the
mm,
first sphere of influence is understanding who you are as a leader. You need to understand the things that are going on within you. You need to understand your own person. Then you need to realize that you are not living in isolation. You live with people. Because other things I do is really do a lot of research and work on etiquette, on how business coaching and things like that. So you're working with people. Now, when you're working with people, you need to understand them. So you move from yourself, your own sphere of influence, understanding yourself, then you now move to others. And this is so critical and important because you are able to manage yourself. If you're not
mm.
able to put yourself together, if you're not able to manage yourself, how would you manage other people? So when you're looking at your sphere of influence, first you start with the middle dot, which is you. Then you begin to move to others. How are you aware of others? And that's
Mm.
why another thing I do is Dix coaching. What is Dix? It's like
Wow, what is this?
a personality test, really understanding people. So, for example, people have different ways they receive things, just like the way you spoke about. It could be
Mm,
because of their background, maybe they had traumas or they had a different kind of experience, or probably they live in a different country. And it could also be sometimes your genes to affect all those type of things as well. So just being able to understand people personality. And one of the things that research has done is just over the years, we've been able to bucket people into about 4 different kind of personality. If you look at it back, I could still remember even when I was a teenager, I was reading is it the five love languages? So there are the
mhm,
times when we talk about personality, you see people who are sanguine, who are phlegmatic, who are choleric, and there are about 4 of them. So, but when we come to Dicks, we're talking about people who are, when we look at the D, we're looking at drivers, dominant. When they
mm,
come in, they have a very driver personality. Oh, I want to move things, boom, 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 boom. And you look at
mm,
people who are more influential. What they want that connection. They want to, I won't call it like hug, but we want to really relate. I don't want it to be transactional. I really want it to
mm,
be a very deep relationship. And then you look at many people who are in the accounting industry, like I am, they're very calculative. They want
mm,
to analyze everything. They want to look into everything detailed. And we also have the steady type. The steady people are people who want to be very supportive. They won't push things forward, but they like to hold things together. They probably don't like so much change. So first, you know yourself. Then, secondly, you are able to know and understand others. And that way, you are also able to know how to move this pendulum, how to move the swing. At what point do I do this? At what point do I do that? What is best for this situation? Because at the end of the day, even when we begin to look at social transformation, how do we live together and things like that, you want to bring all these things together to see how we can all work as one, how we can get to a compromise, how we can get to a place whereby a consensus, rather, how we can get to a consensus whereby, okay, this works for me, this works for you, and we have a win-win situation. So that's where you want to get to.
I love it. Um, when you talked about sphere of influence, it really resonated with me because I feel like when you have a sphere of influence, it's where you have been led to dominate.
Mm,
And I feel even with educators and even with senior leaders in the world of education, maybe people will disagree with me. I feel that we are all leaders, as I said,
exactly.
in our sphere of influence, is
Yes.
knowing the place that we have been called to dominate, is knowing the place that we have been called to influence. And a lot of people, when you talk like that, a lot of people don't know themselves. A lot of people suffer so much from finding their true self. It's really sad in a way because even some educators or some senior leaders have been in their where they are right now by not by choice. but by
Mm,
accident, sometimes we
mm.
end up being there, but it's not really what drives us, what makes us happy. And I feel like when you enter into the rat race, you enter into life experiences, and it's so hard for you to get out of this, you know. And what would you say to someone who wants to actually lead in that place of influence, but really don't know who they are? How they can they start knowing who they are? Because
Wow.
you have done the work. You have done the work. You are not just an accountant. You are a coach. You are a trainer. You are a speaker. You have so many layers of Sandra Balogun that
Absolutely.
you had to really tap into that power. What can you say to someone who is in that place of, I'm just looking to grow, but I don't know where to start and how to find myself?
Thank you so much, Erlene. This is a very key question. One of the big questions you would always need to ask in life is to say, who am I as a
Mm.
person? And yes, you mentioned so many layers. I'm also a mom. I have two girls as well.
Oh.
So it's a lot of spaces. And one of the things I want to tell people is you can be multidimensional. You don't need to put yourself in one box. And
Mm.
that's what I do for myself, and I really enjoy it. So when we come to the question of understanding who exactly are you, it's first of all saying, having certain questions. First of all, ask yourself, what do you really like?
Mm.
Because sometimes we do everything, we win the world, we forget ourselves. We don't even know what we like. You don't know what
Mm.
makes you tick. So it's just having that conversation, and that's what coaches do. Well, that's one of the work I believe you do also as well as a
Yes,
transformational
yes,
coach, right?
yes.
That's one of the work I do. Come to that space and say, what exactly do you like? Go back from look at your background and your upbringing. What do you really like? And then when you put that on the table, now you also need to be asking, what can you do? What can you do? And what do you enjoy doing? So what you're doing in essence is you're trying to like understand yourself. Then you need to discover your strengths. Your
Mm.
strength is what you enjoy doing, that you could do it over and over and over and over and over again, and you will hardly get bored. It does not mean you're an expert on it, because you have to build your strength. So you discover your strength, but you have to build it to the place of mastery.
Mm.
You have to be, because it's mastery that gives you that reward that you want. Because kings will come to the brightness of your rising. That's where kings will
Mm.
come. And you want to see yourself at a place whereby at the end of the day, because the real reward is when you really serve kings. In other words, what do I mean? Because this is a scripture, this is a word we use a lot in the faith base.
Yeah, you're a faith person, I can see so.
Is what people will is expertise, right? Specialization. There's a lot of reward, monetary reward in those expertise and specialization. So you need to be able to understand your strength. We're not saying, are you an expert yet? No, that's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying that is this something that you really enjoy doing? Now, this is key, because just imagine you having uh something that is inflammable. Your strength is something that is inflammable. If you put gasoline on what is inflammable, what is it going to do? It's going to spark.
Mm.
So when you understand your strength and you begin to layer by layer, precept upon precept, you begin to add to it, you begin to build upon it, you begin to build that skill, and give yourself 3 years, 2 years, you will see that you are a more refined person. And you know what? You're going to like yourself. I'm not, when I talk about like yourself, I'm not just talking about self-love, click on Instagram. No, 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 no. Being so that you can really sit down still without the cameras and the lights and everything, but you really love the person that you are becoming. Now,
Mm.
another thing people have is, this is what I like, but right now I can't do what I want to do. So this is what I tell people a lot. Start where you are and do it with excellence. Do it with diligence. But look for ways whereby you can contribute in your areas of significance. For example, 9 years ago when I started, 9 to 10 years, about 2016, when I started in public accounting, it's one of the big four firms. I was strictly doing accounting. It was a lot of hours were putting into it.
Mhm.
But once a year, I had the opportunity to do things that I know always really, really, really bring a different part of Sandra that I really enjoyed. And I would raise my hand and say, can I volunteer? Can I do it? And guess what? When I come on that stage, people see the light bulb and they're like, I think you were born for this. And I'm like, I think so too, you know? So that spark is really, really, really there. So that's one of the few things I will say. And please don't go into a place whereby you feel depressed, like, oh, I don't. These things are just timing, understanding when you can move. Because sometimes you may be doing what you're doing, but you need to have a purpose. You need to have a plan. Maybe this is what I'm just doing to save up until I get money to do something else. For example, how did I get money to fund myself for Maxwell Leadership? I started as an accountant. I knew that it was going to be an investment I was going to do it myself. But when I was able to save up this money, I was able to like, okay, I think it's time for me to really move and do this gradually. And I got there and I'm able to do that. So sometimes it could just be a stepping stone to where you are going. The fact that you start somewhere does not mean you end there. I'm doing this today does not mean this is my ending point. No, I'm always learning and evolving. And tomorrow,
Mm.
and the thing is, when you finish one part, when you've exhausted a particular part, you learn something new. It's almost like the imaginations open up again, and you're like, oh, there's even more. There's a lot of abundance for me to explore. So you are building yourself into that multidimensional person. You're getting this called transformation. When you look at the word transformation, you look at a butterfly, right? It starts lead to, and very soon you begin to see the beautiful flowers coming in and it begins to fly. That is exactly what you want to do for yourself. But in order to do that, you need to really appreciate where you are now. In other words, not that you're so comfortable with it, but you need to walk with joy. You need to walk with excitement. You need to walk with a great attitude, because someone sees you with that great attitude and you're like, you know what, this is the person I want on my next project. Many people will get some amazing project or so amazing job if you go doing what you're doing now with so much sadness, with so much it's not exciting to say, oh, I want you on this next project, right? So we're going to do what we need to do as much as possible, but we're looking for that opportunity when you can pivot. You're looking for that time and chance when you know, okay, it's time for me to do this. And really, that's what I'm going to just help put in here to help people in this area.
Wow. This is when you were talking, I really had like some word that came to mind. And I had the word valuable, like adding value to yourself and understanding that you're your greatest assets, because that's what you were saying. Like people need to understand that they are their greatest assets. And as well, for growth, they need to have a desire. And I feel like this is what you were communicating in that sense, that to become a person of multidimensional, we need to have a desire for growth. And it starts with where you are, knowing yourself, finding what you like, and then once you've done one thing, then move to the next one. And I feel as well that it's important to walk in obedience. When you hear something about yourself or one idea, just take it and work with it, because I feel this is what will lead to even greater purpose. Is not just having an idea, just procrastinating, putting it aside, but working with where you are, because it's when you work through it that will develop the other gift that you have inside of you. When you will see those gifts, you will say, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had that, because you took the step to really work on that one thing. And most people, I feel that they're waiting for something big to come, when what is actually happening is themselves. They can be self-sabotaging themselves because they don't have the mindset of just working where they are. And also, I believe as well, having the right community of
Absolutely.
who share the same value as you, because we have so many communities, but it's when you know yourself that you know your tribe, the people that connect with you. And that's why I love John Maxwell, because who he is connects with my faith and my values, and I think that's why we connected as well. Because I know anyone who is in John Maxwell, I'm like, okay, I like that, because there are some. It doesn't mean all of them, but
Absolutely.
most of them, I
Yes.
feel that there is already that layer where it's like the faith, the value, the character, integrity is right there.
You know, Coach Ellen, you really said a lot of light bulb moments. You mentioned something that's self-sabotaging yourself. Many people do this a lot. And the thing is, sometimes you hear those critical voice, oh, you're not ready. oh, you're not ready. There was something backstage before we got in here. I really like how you said, so we're just gonna move, we're gonna go it. I'm someone who likes to push ahead. And that's really amazing.
Mm,
Because you can't just wait for everything to be perfect. There's this word I really like. It says that it says when you wait for the wind to be perfect, you will not sow.
mm,
So it means sometimes even in the storm, you have to sow.
that's it.
Sometimes, even in that difficulty, you need to look for a way to push on. Even
That's it.
sometimes in that challenges, you need to say, where can I find opportunities? Probably I got in here by accident, but where can I find the opportunity to be a light bulb?
Nice.
So, and also, if you look at corporate organizations, most of the big brands you see, most of the innovations that you see today, it's something that was bettered in an act of iteration. And what do we mean by that? Most of the companies spend billions of dollars in research and development. The Apple that you see today, and people are like, oh, it's Apple, it's nice, I like the feel, it's slick, it has a lot of functionality. It came for a discovery process. So, as a
Mm,
person, you are your greatest asset. You need to discover yourself. And
that's
that
it.
discovery process could mean trying things. And that is why you need to be quick. So, for
Mm,
example, you do something and you're like, oh, maybe this is not for me. Next time I'm not going to do it. Fine,
that's
boom,
it.
you go. So, you need to be able to do a number of things so that you can really find yourself and know what exactly am I. But don't just sit and say, I won't do nothing because I've not discovered for myself. Because some people come and be like, what's my purpose? See, you know what? In order to find your purpose, you need to move ahead because that's when you find clarity. Let's say I come in
Mm,
here and I'm saying, okay, I want to be on some podcast show, but I'm like, okay, maybe this is not for me. Maybe this is not my right tribe, like you said. And then this one is my tribe. This is what I connect with. This is what I'm much more better with. But if you are not moving, if you're not getting out of that procrastination and say, let's try, we're not asking for perfection. This is a discovery phase. So there's a lot of
mm,
phase in leadership development. There's one I call the discovery phase. But in order to
that's it.
find yourself, you really need to be in that discovery phase. And that's what
Yeah.
companies spend billions of dollars researching. They research,
Mhm.
research, research, and they're like, this doesn't work. Boom, this doesn't work. Boom. The lights that we see today that is gleaming in us, remember Thomas Edison, he did it for about how many times? Almost 999 times. So trying to get that until he gets the right timing and like, oh, this is what it is. So and that's another thing is we have to be a little bit comfortable with failure because it's
That's
part of
it.
that journey because
It's
sometimes
learning
you may do some
opportunities.
yes you may do something and it doesn't work well. It just teaches you how not to do it next time. So don't see
Simple.
it as, oh yeah, I'm a failure. You're not a failure. You just something just didn't work. You just learned how not to do it the next time, and then you move on. You take the learning, you do it next time, you do it better. Okay, how do I do it better next time? And you move on. So we need to be very comfortable with that because sometimes when they get the first blow and some people are like, oh, I'm not gonna do it again.
Mm,
So that's not where you want to go. It will be hard for you to grow with that kind of mindset. And you mentioned something about mindset. It's hard for you to grow above the level of your mind.
yes,
No,
simple.
see, everything we do, it's a reflection of how we think, from how we
Mhm.
dress, from how we talk. Have you seen people who think royalty? There's a way they walk into the room. It's not just because of what you're wearing. It's not the brand. No, 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 no.
Go girl.
It's just, this is how I just think. It's just automatic. So it starts from the mind.
It's just, yes, who we are, definitely. I love that conversation because people need to really get in that place of self-awareness of where they are. And when you were talking, I heard the word intentionality. I feel like it's so influence, becoming a person of influence works with as well becoming intentional with your time, intentional with who you are, your self-discovery, not just wait but be a doer. And I
Mhm.
love how, we need to encourage more people to actually find different layers of themselves because I feel like when there is so much to offer to the world. There is so
Mm.
much to offer to the world. Like being an educator is great. Being a senior
Mhm.
leader is great. But what
Mhm.
else do you have? What more do you have? And I want to push people to go into that higher level of themselves, higher level of discovering that they can not just impact where they are locally, not only their classroom, but outside. Why not the world? Why not uh, everything around you? Why just being in the classroom or in your school community? There is so much layer to offer to people. So the next question that I have for you is why understanding the why of influence. Can you
Mm.
share a little bit about that? Why influence?
Beautiful. So It's really important because there are many people out there who need someone to look at. Most importantly, there are so many people that out there that needs to know and wants to be taught how. It's not enough for me to tell someone, be a millionaire. I need to let you know how to be a millionaire. So why do you want to influence? One is to be able to teach people things that have worked for you. You are in the educator space, and I'm going to bring the word training again. When we train people, we show the people how to do certain things. Why influence is to be able to leave a legacy. Why influence is to be able to leave room for continuity. Have you seen people who, let's say, they're wealthy billionaires and they have not trained people? In fact, that I'm even going too far. Let me bring it back to the educator space. People who have led office position, but they've not developed and trained people who have the capacity to take after them. Why influence? Because that gives you the opportunity to do other things. Why influence? Because we want to make things to be good and not just good, to be better. Because there's hardly a vacuum. Everybody's affected by one thing or the other. If you are not intentional about building that influence, people will be influenced by something else or things, other things. So that's why it's a call for leaders to be able to say, you really need to, the work I do is, you really need to really think about how you are influencing. You really need to be an agent of change. There's this thing that we say, if you say everybody will do it, at the end of the day, nobody gets it done. So don't just leave the work and say, oh, they'll figure it out themselves. They may end up not figuring out themselves. But if you know that there is this certain aspect that you have a grace for, you have a calling for, you have been trained for, you want to intentionally lead, you want to intentionally influence. So that's why we need to do this, because it is needed in our society, from the family unit to the school to the organization. It's a responsibility, because you know that whether you know it or you do not know it, every listener, is the fact that you are affecting others, you're affecting things, whether you know it or you do not know it. For example, when you walk into the room, what does your presence tell? Have you ever walked with someone and the person gives you a smile? What do? You naturally smile back. That's the simplest form of influence. Just walking on the road and someone smiles, your mood change. You're like, what's going on? You just smile back. You're like, uh-oh. So influence is needed, and that's why we need to intentionally understand what exactly is influence and how do we improve on it? How do we continue to make it more better? Because one of the things, disaster we can ever do to ourselves is when we're really not aware of the influence that we yield, the influence that we bring out, we give out, the people we affect. It doesn't speak well. So what we want to do is to be able to really understand that, oh, how do I really affect others? How do my attitude, my character, my actions and my inactions, how does it affect? And being able to wait, because sometimes there are certain times that, so when we say become an influence, it's not really pleasing everybody. That's not what we're saying. But you knowing the magnitude of the people that I affect so much with what I do, and being able to say, oh, this is my biggest area of influence, and this is how I can be able to work on it. And this is going to help you not just as a person, it's going to help you in your business, because you're able to know that, oh, these are the people that I communicate more with, I affect more with, and how can I add value in this area and continue to increase. So that is the different various reasons of the why do we need influence, because it's needed. There are a lot of people you've mentioned, some people are just then like, how do I move from point A to B? How do I really understand myself? But if you do not come out, if you do not take that step, there are a lot of lives that are connected to your life. That's what influence is. Influence is, there are a lot of life connected to your life. So that's what influence is. Influence is lighting your candle. And you know what? When your candle lights another person's candle, doesn't mean your own goes off. No, that's not what it means. It doesn't mean your own goes off. So that's why influence is like an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that we need to continue to build and make better. So that's why that's the why of influence.
Yes, I love what you said, because one thing that John Maxwell talk about is the law of leads. And I feel like people only grow to their level of leadership when they actually invest in themselves. The more you
Mm,
invest in yourself, the more your law of lead start to grow, because you are really bringing more impact around you. And
exactly.
I really think that in some ways, parents or educators or senior leaders or whoever is a leader, they are educators in a way. They are trainers. And I feel that people need to grow in that mindset, as you were saying, that you're here to teach something, to train something, as people to understand something. And by why, the first why is adding value. John Maxwell talk a lot
Mhm.
about adding value. Why are you influencing? Is adding value, knowing even your school culture, knowing the culture of where you are, and then from when knowing is adding value, not just coming and changing everything. Is being able.
Mm,
There is so many layers that we
mm,
need to really start thinking deeper on how you can actually be a person of influence in that
mm,
field. And the last thing I wanted to emphasize is, as a trainer, is really developing leaders. That's why I really
mhm,
emphasize on igniting 360, the three stakeholders, which is parents, staff, and also educators and students, but also developing leaders, because people don't even know that they are leaders. You have so many people, they are doing their job, but they don't realize that they are leaders themselves. They think that they are followers. But when you are a person of influence, you need to make them realize that you are leading where you are. And I will give you the tools to lead even better. Because
exactly.
again, one of the laws that I love about the 21 laws of irrefutable laws of leadership, it talks about the law of empowerment.
Mm,
When you actually multiply who you are, you bring something to someone else, and eventually it will actually grow in the life of other people. So all this understanding of the laws and the concept of leadership really makes a difference in people's life. There is so many books I love about John Maxwell, the 15 laws of growth, the law. I think there is a book of intentionality as well. I read this one as well. It's just so many things that allows you to ponder, to think about the kind of person that you are and how you can actually make a bigger impact where you are. And we need to develop a mindset of developing leaders around us, developing parents. There are so many parents, they don't know that they are leaders. They think that it's just by accident. No, you can take control of that responsibility and really train your child the way it should go and allow them to become leaders. But they only live by example. So if you are not the parent who is a leader, they will automatically become followers. But you need to work again, you see, with the kind of children that you have. You need to work with the kind of staff that you have. You need to work with the kind of student that you have. But it's all come with wisdom. And
mm,
this is one of the things that I call myself in the educational system. I call myself the wise educational consultant. I bring wisdom. I am not the expert of wisdom, but I feel like I have gained some understanding of how to bring wisdom into an environment and how to
mm,
assess the environment and bring
mm.
and add value to what it is. So I love what you're saying. It's very impactful. So this is a wrap. Let's actually give one inspirational um, message, the last message. What last message would you say to any educator, any parents, any senior leader listening to us right now that is in that phase of becoming a person of influence? What would you tell them? Tell them your last message.
Beautiful. So thank you so much, Coach Erlin, for this opportunity. As we wrap up, one of the last message I would give is to keep adding value. You need to get to that point whereby you are feeling yourself and you are giving from your overflow. You need to give from your, there's this word that says your cup will run over. You don't want to get to a place whereby you are reducing, because what you give is what, when you want to influence, sometimes people just, you have been so filled that you just give out, and you feel like there's a lot of abundance. So don't ever feel like I'm adding value to myself and it's a waste. No, you're spending time listening to this podcast conversation. You want to pick one or two things that can help you add to your toolbox. So that really is really important. And I really want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being on this podcast, listening to Coach Erlene, listening to the work she does as a wise educator. So this is really amazing. And those are my words for you, right? Keep improving yourself. You may not have the leadership title, but what you want to be is, even if you say, okay, I'm a follower, I'm also a follower. I don't feel bad calling myself a follower. I'm a leader and a follower. But when I am a follower with a leadership mindset. That's the kind of person that I am, because you need to also know how to be able to be in a place of authority. So when I'm in a place of authority, yes, I'm a follower, but I'm not just a follower. I'm a follower with a leadership mindset. And when I'm given that opportunity to lead as well, I come in and bring all that leadership skill and leadership mindset in there. And leadership is not about the title. Leadership is about the influence, the impact that you make. It's about the mindset that you bring into it, the action that you put into it. And one of the ways you would definitely continue to do yourself is educating yourself, being a learner, and being on this kind of show, listening to the speakers, and most importantly, putting it into practice, because it's practice that makes excellence, not perfection. Thank you so much, Coach Helen.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sandra, for being here with us. So anyone that is listening to us, I encourage you to join my Wise Edu Speaker Masterclass, where I will help you to really grow from being unstuck to step into your higher calling. So I encourage you to click on the link that will be on the bio. And as well, I encourage you to share, to comment. And we thank you, Sandra, for being here with us. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode, and make sure you connect with us on Instagram at The Case for Success. Check also my Linktree and become an affiliate of the Success Guide for Teens Academy, a program that will empower your school community as a parent, teacher, and high school senior leader. Do not hesitate to reach out, comment, and share. Until then, see you in the next episodes.